Hey, welcome back to the Speak to Freedom podcast. Today's guest, Alicia Pozsony. Alicia's gone through some interesting things in life. We unpack a little bit, and she helps individuals find success. There's a lot of different ways you can find success, and she'll uncover that more in the episode. But as we dive in today, I want you to take a look as we kind of talk a little bit through her story, but also I unpack a few things, extract from her a really beautiful way of looking at story and telling and sharing that you could benefit from to figure out how you can frame up your value in different ways. So as you dive into this, keep your mind and your head and your heart open, all those great things. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hello. Welcome back to the show, everybody. We are here today with Alicia Pozsony. Alicia, I said it. I got to say it properly. In the morning, my tongue has to wake up, I've noticed. And so sometimes words don't come out properly. But good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are in the world. Alicia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time to talk to me and the people and all the folks in the world. Let's do this. I usually dive in trying to get an anchored sense of who you are, because I always realize that when I'm listening to people, I want to know who they are before we dive in. So I'm like, who is this person? Listen, should I hear them? Are they worth listening to? So if you could share with me when somebody asks, hey, what do you do and why is it important? What would your response be?
I bring people clarity, connection, and power in their performance. Right. I've been a career coach for many years. I then went on to life coaching. I got to be in the room on my first ever stage with Les Brown as a speaker. And now I'm able to bring the same thing I've seen happen in people's lives individually to the world on a greater stage. And that is success. I bring success to people. I help them bridge the gap and come out of that stuck place where they are.
All right. I dig it. Where did this become a thing for you? Like what led you into that moment in the room? Because I get that you've done a couple things, and I want to dive into more clarity of what those specifics are, because I always find like success is a word that could be across the board. Like if you ask my wife, what's success? She'll say, success is getting my workout in today, right? Somebody else could say, success is $1 million a day in my business, right? Before we get there, what led you into that? Like, what was your personal experience leading up to this level in this realm?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. I've come from a dysfunctional background. In fact, I was overcoming challenges before I can even remember. I was born into this world as a premature baby. The doctors told my parents that I would never survive to live to the age that I'm living today. Yeah. And I learned after losing 30 years of my life to fear and overwhelm that I didn't have to do that I could overcome. Yeah. And so that's the essence of what I bring.
Where'd you find that out? Was there a moment in time or a specific situation where like you just kind of the idea like was a very shining truth to you? Gotcha. I guess I'm trying to find out. Usually, whenever I speak, I do I have a company called Speak to Freedom where we teach speakers how to get great at getting on stage, kind of our big focal point. I'm always wanting to find out, like, what is that moment that I can dive into? I call it virtual reality, the moment, right? Because I got this feeling there's some things under the surface that you've gone through that are probably like people, like you said, the memoirs, like, that's crazy. How'd you go through that? I don't know what you've gone through though. I'm trying to figure out what you went through. Like, was there a moment on a Tuesday where some guy walks in and he says, all right, put your hands up. Like, what was that exact kind of situation? Because that's what I find that people attach to is that actual moment they can emotionally get invested into it. So in the memoirs, like, is there a story that stands out? Is there a situation that stands out to you of like, man, this was one of the most powerful ones that all of a sudden I realized, man, I have the power when I thought for, like you said, 30 years, I didn't. Like, what was one of those moments and those experiences?
Personally, I had grown up with a father who left. I had a mother who was mentally ill,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have support. So
Yeah.
I came out of the gate unable to go to college. I I worked my way up the ladder, eventually getting somewhere in corporate, but it took a long time. I was
Yeah.
never hired permanently as an employee. I
Mm.
had to work as an independent contractor. And so
Interesting.
I could get the job done. I could complete the assignments, but for whatever reason, I wasn't able to get that employment. And I think it was tied to my own self confidence and
Mhm.
self worth.
Interesting.
So when you look back, it was that I was struggling with who I was, even though my mother was mentally ill and I wasn't. It was something that I knew I didn't have the support and that structure to give me that total self-worth. And I think we all have areas that we hide from others. So
Yeah.
mine really came from the point where I was not even able to come out of it. I mean, in my young adult life, I had depression. I had other insecurities. I'm an introvert by nature, but
Gotcha.
today you would never know it because I'm out in the public and I'm speaking and I'm teaching and training.
Mhm.
But back then, I was a total different person.
Gotcha. What were you like back then? Like, obviously, there's a piece there. I still haven't got the story yet. I'm like, is there a cool story floating around that I haven't heard yet? Because you're alluding to things, but I really want to know like a story. It's kind of the big thing that I will personally want to figure out because I talk to people all day long. They go, man, I had a really hard childhood. I had some cool, crazy things happen. And I also had a mom who, she definitely had some mental issues and didn't know my dad for a lot of years. And so for me, I always go when I bring people onto this show, I want people to hear a story that can impact them and to hear like statements of what took place is different than saying like, hey, here's really what took place. Like, so for me, like if I say what's something that took place for me, I remember I was a kid. I was sitting in the front of my house. My mom calls me from the back, and I get up. I'm like probably 3, 4 years old, and I walk to the back of the apartment. As I walk out the apartment, I see my mom in blue pants, white shirt, dark hair. She's crying, and I don't know why she's crying. She's standing next to this strange woman, and I walk over. She kisses me on my forehead, takes my hand, and hands it to this strange woman, who drags me to this black Crown Victoria. She puts me in the car, buckles a seat. I can hear in the back seat my 3 siblings crying. I look back and see them. I have no idea what's going on. I turn to look out the side of the window. I see my mom standing there. She starts the car up, this lady, and drives us away. And I see my mom there as I'm pulling away from her. I have no idea what's going on. And then obviously in hindsight, it was me being given away into foster care. And it started a whole downhill spiral for my life for a long period of time. But it taught me kind of essentially like that at the end of the day, while things may not be in your control, like they do affect you, but you have control at a certain point. So when I got to a certain age, I realized that. And actually, while I was easily able to go down the path of being a statistical anomaly or non-anomaly and being a statistical norm and being this guy that's going to be a criminal and do drugs and all that kind of stuff like you see in prisons. I chose to be an anomaly. I leaned into football and I took my time to be great at that. I went from sucking at the game to being great at the game, getting a college scholarship, da 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 da. So like for me, I want to know that for you because it sounds like there's something tucked in there. And I realize there's probably in a moment or experience or a situation, someone go, oh, damn, like, yeah, now I get exactly what she's talking about.
Anthony, we have a lot in common. I was given up at the age of 17. My
Mm.
mom came into my bedroom one morning, sprayed hairspray in my eyes. She
Ooh.
said, "How do you like that done to you?"
Mm.
I was getting ready for school. I didn't understand it. And at that moment, I drove to school. I had had enough. And I realized that this was beyond my control. I couldn't stay in that environment any longer.
Mm-hmm.
When I returned, she said, "If you don't want to be here, you don't have to." And she called and off I went to foster care.
Gotcha.
I ended up going back when I turned 18 because I missed her. And family was really something that was close to my heart, and I didn't want to let that go. But years before that, there's other moments where pivotal things happened. And I remember when I was 5 years old and I had gone to bed and there was a knock at the door. I heard my mom talking to someone and I listened, and it was my biological father. He had come back to give me a letter. It was midnight. She said, "You don't do that. You don't come to midnight to talk to a kid." And for that, I respected her. But at the same time, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why he left.
Yeah.
He came in forcefully, made his way into my room, gave me this letter and said, "This isn't your fault. No matter what, I'll always love you." Yet he left. He didn't pay child support. He didn't come and see me. And so there was a conflict there about who I was and what happened, and was everything my mother's fault. So I lived a life of not understanding the right way to live. I didn't know normal. And so after I was able to give my mother tough love when I couldn't help her and protect her from her schizophrenia, I got with my husband, who was normal. And luckily, he helped give me structure, simple things like coffee in the morning to wake me up. And I found that I could hold a permanent position at work. And so it was really behavioral, a change in my life day by day that made the difference. But in those years, my mother had a second child. My sister was taken away from us because she didn't know that when she signed the papers, she was signing custody away for good. She also had us get into a taxi. I was shuffled into that taxi. I didn't know why. We were being taken away from our home. We got to this place. The metal gate slammed behind us as they shoved us inside and checked us, patted us down. I was a little kid. We were in a battered women's shelter. My mother wasn't battered. Why were we there? It was this kind of dysfunction all the time. I would come home from school. The living room furniture would be gone. Everything is moved. We're leaving at the snap. I went to 27 different schools when I was young. Wow. I mean, there's many stories, and I speak about these in different forums.
Love it.
I had my first child at the age of 35. I didn't go to college until then. I would do my papers on the floor while my son was trying to fall asleep in the crib. I had my second child at 40, and both of them had ADHD. So my whole life has been a series of pivots and overcoming challenges.
Yeah, I can tell.
There might be more work that I should do, Anthony, but
oh no, we all got work to do. That's the crazy thing, right?
The dark work. Yes.
The dark work, man. But it's to this, the thing for me is I love hearing this, not in a sense of going like, oh man, I love your hardship. And that's not the case. You know that. But the idea is I like that we can hear the fact like, man, people go through some things, but they come on the far side and they go, hey, I've navigated this and I'm better suited to serve the people who are in the middle of this now or who have not navigated as successfully as you have. Because obviously to go through those things, I don't know if there's numbers you've looked up, but statistically foster care, like that leads to some pretty difficult situations for us to come out of typically. And then even just if there's situations with like having trauma at home or not a father in the house, like these things statistically are pretty downfall. So you're in the top, 1 to 5% of probably people who have experienced that, which is awesome. Kudos to you. And I love that you've gone and built a cool life out of this. And now it's the stage where you went and said, I'm going to go build my own life. And then at a certain point, you said, man, there's something else the world needs from me. As you did this, you went to the corporate world, climbed that, built some cool things. What was the thing that made you go, there's more to me? Like, what was the thing that made you, because it's scary, the security of a corporate job, and you get there and you got your title and your people, right? To go, I'm going to leave that to go do my own thing. That's ballsy and lady ballsy, right? So what was the thing that built up to you doing that and then taking a leap?
Well, here's the thing. I haven't left it. I'm still a VP at the bank. Okay. But the thing that really was the idea that I had more to offer was that I would wake up with a calling and it didn't go away. So to be able to say that I'm not done yet. That's the thing, that we're here for a purpose. We're not here for a destination. I think it's really a journey. And as long as we're living, learning every day and able to recognize that we have more to offer, that's success. That's a valuable life. And to know that so many people have given it away, and I've seen them drink it away, drug it away. I've seen them just waste their life in so many ways. And so I'm here to change that. Generationally, there's been a lot of trauma that gets passed down, and I'm one, and I've seen it. So I know that I've seen the changes happen as well when I work with my clients or other people, and I hear them get inspired by my stories and stories like yours. It's just something that I feel we need to do in this time. We're lucky to be here at this time, and there's a reason for that. So I really feel like it's something that it happens once you're open to it. You give yourself permission to be who you are, despite what happened to you. You can really make change in the world.
I agree.
It's anchoring to that promise and that idea and being inspired by the greats. I think that that's really what helps me to move forward and do that for others as well.
I like it. When you said earlier, because I think we could dive back into this now, is you had a discussion about like you help people find clarity and success and all those kind of things. And those are great statements. And I found over my years of like marketing and teaching, and it's always this kind of thing. People go, well, it's not 100% clear to me. Like, what does clarity mean? Like, so for you, when someone says clarity, like, where's a precise area they clear, right? I could say clarity on, whether you should be in this relationship or not, clarity on whether you should start a business or not, clarity on, whether or not, you should, make this investment or not. What is the type of clarity that you find people need that you're able to provide for them?
I love this question. One of the things that came up a couple times over the past month is the difference between joy and happiness. And a lot of times, if you're living a life, whether you're operating in your business or in your relationships, you have this idea that you can have something, right? We want more money. We want more, better impact, better influence. But the thing that really is the clarity is when you can align with who you are and have that joy, no matter the challenge or the money or whatever's going on in your relationships. You live at that level where you can be greater no matter what happens to you.
I got you.
So when
go ahead.
When I provide the clarity and bridge the gap for people, it's multifaceted. So like last year, I started a Power Your Life program, which is around the 8 areas of wellness, because you can't just do one thing. We're so complex as individuals. And so, as you said, that if someone's in business, success may be reaching the $1 million mark, or they might want to have success or have freedom or have time, but it's not ending. You still have to keep up. You still have to learn and still focus on, be forward thinking, fail fast, do the things that may be uncomfortable, because that's what's going to get you there. And when you're inside the jar, you can't read the label. So you've got to step up and step out so that you can see where you are and where you want to be. You can't do it from inside the jar.
So who's the best kind of person for you to work with then? Like, there's obviously probably like a bunch of different options and type of people. When you sit back and go, man, this is the kind of person who I could work with. Like, I know for me in our dark work brand, it's primarily going to be executives, entrepreneurs, and athletes. There's a different level to how they tick and operate. Now, you will have professionals that'll sit in there, maybe non-executives, right? It's going to be professionals in different places of the world, but it's the folks that go, man, I've tasted a little bit of greatness. I want something more. Doesn't mean I'm doing bad, but I know there's more in my potential. Like, that's who I know I serve. When you think about the person who's best suited for your work, who is that individual? Hey, what would it be like to hop on a stage, share your message, change some lives, and get paid very well to do so? If it's an idea of yours, you've been thinking about it, you've been interested in this idea of maybe being an amazing speaker, or you're already making some great speeches, but not getting paid what you want or as consistent as you'd like, I want you to head to speaktofreedom.com. And this place will give you all the details of what we do, how we do it, how we change lives. Our big goal is to get you great at getting on the stage. When you can do that, it changes your life while you change other people's lives. So head to speaktofreedom.com. Outside of that, let's get back to the episode.
For 10 years, I've done career coaching. So I help professionals, executives. I then started a radio show, which is now a podcast. It's called Resilient You with Alicia Pozsony. And I've had people who are at the top in their field, celebrities, authors. I've had athletes. And the one thing in common is the resilience. So today, the people that I serve are those achievers, people who want to achieve, people who want to be resilient or be more resilient. Because if you've not yet come to that point where you're not ready to make a change and take the steps, then I can't help you.
I mean, I think there's a level there of that kind of person, but who is that person, right? So I could say it's a mom who has some opportunities, but she's not ready. It could be your neighbor, right? It could be a colleague, but like, who is that individual? And the reason I'm asking this is because I want people to be able to hear, if they're listening to you and paying attention, they go, oh, that's the kind of person I am. Is it an audience? Is it a type of individual that really is like a struggling point? Because there's a statement I love. It says, you're best suited to serve those who are where you once were. That's why for me, like, I'm an entrepreneur. I know people that are struggling in certain areas who have all the books and information, right? But they aren't doing that dark work. I've worked with executives. I am an executive for my company, right? But I know there's people who don't do the dark work. I know athletes used to be that person. It's a different kind of dark work, right? But those folks want something. They want to win games, be the best athlete, but they don't do the dark work. And I know I could describe each one of those people and talk about what it is they're not doing, why they're not getting it done, right? And unpack it. So I'm trying to figure out, like, who is that person for you, that if someone's sitting here going, I like this Alicia Pozsony, like what is that individual going to be able to hear from you and go, oh, we got to bring her in?
Yeah. And I know that over the past year, I've spoken on topics of women's empowerment, leadership, diversity and inclusion.
Okay.
The primary audience is females who want to start a new business, author a book, do a film, or be a speaker. So it's kind of varied.
Yeah.
Speaking to me is something that is a necessity. And if people are either afraid to be on camera, afraid to use their voice, afraid to share their message, then they can't rise to that next level. And so when people are starting a business, and I know myself through all the trainings I've done, I have the expertise. I have a speaking event coming up in January where it's all small businesses. And so it's really about taking all of the things that I bring and tailoring it to that audience. I think, and for me, because I am so complex and I've done so many things, a Jane of all trades, if you will, I have a hard time settling on just one thing.
Yeah, totally get it. I mean, you're not alone there. I think there's a lot of people that do that. I know for me that I teach, and I've found that those who have a specific thing that people know them for, it draws traffic in, as opposed to having like a broad scope. But it's just harder whenever, because I used to do that. I used to have like, hey, I could do all these things from parenting to sports to, so I realized, like, man, if I could put them under an umbrella, a singular core message that makes me stand out. Because what I want to know, and this is usually the separator, is if I was to Google a statement or what I call a $1 million message, what's one that I could Google that only you would show up for? Like for our brand's dark work, only I have dark work. No one else has that. It's in the topic area of change management, resilience, motivation, right? Those kind of spaces, leadership a little bit. But realistically, it's its own message. Just like 4-Hour Workweek is its own, message in the realm of delegation. And so over time, I found that those who have that, like, it gets a little bit tighter, clearer, more concise, and you can still do everything else. Like John Maxwell, big into leadership, but he has so many different levels and facets of his humanity that make him a valuable weapon in so many different areas. But there is that one thing, we know he's a leadership guy, right? So just this idea, maybe something to play around with, because it would help me know how to direct people to you, if that makes sense. And in the future, might be able to help other people direct folks towards you. Because that's going to be the kind of big thing, is how do we leverage, what we have to have somebody else talk about us, to recommend us.
Yeah, thank you. And I've had a few. When I worked with Les Brown, he thought it should be, you can overcome. And I thought that's too basic, but I've been toying around with you're something more lately. So because that seems to be the thing. And again, when you say who's the person, I've helped people get new jobs. I've helped people get new careers and follow new career paths. I've helped them embrace their authenticity and become what they always wanted or what they used to want to be when they were kids. And as a career coach, that's an amazing thing to see that transformation.
Yeah,
I know that the coaching space is really inundated. And so I just try to be current and do what I can. People lately have been saying I should be a success coach because I know so much about marketing and sales and ads. I can do it for you, but I can't do it for myself that great. But
that happens sometimes.
I'm in a position where I want to serve. And someone said that to me lately. What do you love? Do you love being a speaker, an author, or a coach? And it really just came to that pivotal moment that I want to serve. So
yeah, totally get it.
It's a process.
It always is a process. That's the fun part, because service is always great, but then it's like, what are we serving? Because they go, I want to serve, but then they go, well, what am I going to get from your service? And if it's not clear, if people don't want to buy into it, it's always funky and a weird thing. It took a lot of years for me to figure that piece out. I just, I tell my story, and what I thought in the beginning is I go, hey, I got this cool story. People are going to hire me because I got a cool story. The truth is that wasn't the case. What I found was people wanted to know, well, from your story, which is, it's cool, what do our people benefit? And so it took me a long time to even understand what the question was. And what I found was, they need something that's a simple, concise, valuable message that is extracted from my story. So whenever I go into this audience and I step on a stage or I want to coach, they know that there's going to be a benefit to me being there beyond just a cool story. Because what happens is people don't grab and remember the whole story. They remember the message. So what I found was I go, okay, ours used to be trust your hustle. Then it was identity shift, own your shift was the whole thing. And then now it's dark work. And it's kind of molded over the years into something that is more concise, more poignant. It seems to resonate deeper with people. The idea of that work in the dark so you can win in the light. But that's the thing, is when you get that tiled in, like it opens the doors for so many more things, and it makes it more valuable to the audience. So when I get booked, my fee is like $25,000 now. When I go do it, they're not booking me for my story. But like, what's the message? Like, the message, dark work. They go, how's it going to resonate with our people? Oh, we're going to teach them how to do that work in the dark, the unsexy, unseen, ridiculed, misunderstood work. But that stuff allows them to achieve something, but also to become the kind of person that achieves. So they do that work in the dark. They will know how to win in the light, whether it's by the skill set or sheer determination to make sure the work they did wasn't for nothing. And it develops a different team, different mentality, different way of showing up, different personal pride for their people. They go, we want that. Now, what's your story? It's very interesting. Like, then they transition to where'd that come from? Oh, here's where it came from, right? And so it was a big, huge thing, like an eye opener for me when I was trying to get, higher fees. Like, I couldn't get people to pay me more. I'm like, why can't I get people to pay me more? I got a cool story. I got a better story than these people, but they had a better message, and their story could be less, pizzazz, but the message was concise and valuable. They got it all day long. When I merged the two, all of a sudden it was gangbusters. So that's what I've had a blast figuring out over the years. And that's honestly how I found that I've been able to build my business to speaking to a life of freedom. Like, this is all I do. I just talk on stages and I coach people. I meet people like yourselves. They're awesome. And it's from that one separate piece. And the cool about it is I'm not competitive to anybody. Like, your message will be yours. Mine will be mine. There's nobody stepping on toes. Like, it's kind of cool, man. If I was to send you, oh, you're welcome. It's a blast. It's cool. And that's why I do this. I like to have this kind of platform to put other people out in the world, because I can't be on every stage. I don't want to be. And a lot of people ask, like, when I go to speeches, do you know anybody else? And so having other people I can recommend them to is obviously, it's a huge thing for me. So if I did want to send people to you, where would I send them? And obviously it's for people listening right now. How can they get more of Alicia Pozsony?
Yeah, sure. Well, my website, aliciapozsony.com. I also have different offerings on socials. You can find me on all the socials, same Alicia Pozsony. Mm-hmm. And I can send you my personal speaker sheet, Anthony. You can refer me anytime.
Right. Yeah. Hey, send them my way. People send me them all the time, and you never know. I put them in a little database. If you could send me the sheet in like topics, because then people ask, like, who are the kind of people I can at least send you information, which is helpful later on.
Yes, it's there. Yeah. Cool. And I know that since I mentioned the process I'm going through, I always want to refine and make it better.
Yeah.
Last year I had a Power Your Life program, and it's, the coaching that I offer for VIPs, for speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I have all the systems in place as well, the books, I have everything, but the message, maybe you know what, you've helped me today. You really have. I think I'll do some more internal work, and
Yeah,
we'll see how that can serve me in that single message.
Yeah, you got it there. I mean, all the stuff I've already heard from you, it's floating in there. Once you pluck that thing out, you shine it up and put it in front of the world, it'll take off like crazy. It's just, that's the thing, is some people want to speak, they don't have a background of speaking, haven't navigated successfully like you have. Once you find that, it's gonna be cool. I'll see you on some stages next to me at some point, I'm sure.
Wonderful.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys tuned in. Thank you so much for being here with me and Alicia. We had a blast chatting and talking. Make sure to go to AliciaPozsony.com. It's ALICIAPOZSONY.com for any information that you need in terms of the work she does. You'll find it there. Outside of that, if you're a person who is looking to speak, you want to be a person on the stage, go to speaktofreedom.com. It's what we do. If you're a person who just want to hang out and listen, I hope you gained something useful from this conversation. And if you did, just takes one piece of information applied to your life to change it. So either apply that information or call Alicia and have her help you apply it. Outside of that, I appreciate your time. Thank you as well, Alicia. And make sure you go into the world and share your message, because the world needs it. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Speak to Freedom podcast. I hope you found our discussion inspiring and informative. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated on all our future releases, be sure to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for tuning in today. Until next time, remember to speak with confidence and clarity so you can one day soon speak to freedom. See you in the next episode.